a Hello, welcome to Walk in the Park. My name is Tony Ingram, and this is June 6th, 2018, our episode 194. You can check out all of my episodes at my website, walkinthepark.tv, walkinthepark.tv. This is a public access television show in Ithaca, New York. You can go see all about us at our website, pegasus.webstarts.com. And you can also learn how to become a producer yourself. You can take a course and pass it and get certified to use the studios, and to take another course you can get certified to take equipment out into the field and take video and bring it back and cablecast it on Channel 13 in Ithaca, New York. Okay, we also have a Facebook page, and you can go there. We do post some of our shows, or at least notices of our shows there, and also we do have a schedule of all of this series on our webpage. So check that out. Walk in the Park. Again, we're going to this time we're going to take a look at one of Ithaca's most spectacular scenic wonders, and that is Ithaca Falls. Now, if you look in this aerial picture by Bill Hecht, you'll see that just lower left of center is a gorge. First, it runs through the center of the picture there. Lower left of center is a waterfall. You might be able to make that out. That's Ithaca Falls. The upper right is the Cornell University campus. So, and there is an important relationship between that waterfall and Cornell, specifically Ezra Cornell. So here's our wonderful waterfall that we all go into. It's so easy to get into Ithaca Falls. It's like 150 feet high, 175 feet wide, and is on the largest stream, the largest tributary to Cayuga Lake, or at least the one that has the largest watershed, being Fall Creek as it comes into the southeast corner of Cayuga Lake. So there are other things about this waterfall than the waterfall itself that are not quite as clear as the scenic wonders. For instance, you may have noticed down near the street, there's a little park down near the street, Lake Street that is, that has this pipe going through this ruin. And there's several ruins in there. And ruins of what? So what's the story behind that? Well, you have to go back, at least 100 years to see what was going on. And actually, to the right of the waterfall, there was water that was channeled through a tunnel in a cliff and then down through a what they call a flume, I guess, to take power off the height of water to run all kinds of mills. So we're going to take a look at that. And in fact, the City of Ithaca and several different partners have gotten together, Cornell Botanic Gardens and several different partners, the County Chamber of Commerce. Well, we'll go right over all those in a minute, to develop these interpretive signs telling the stories of the gorge. And this is one that's right on Lake Street on the bridge there. You can see actually two signs that were just installed last month. And then here's another one that has a likeness of that hole in the rock in the upper right of the sign, but it tells the industrial history of the area, which had a lot to do with the development of Ithaca and was tied to much larger events like the Erie Canal, like we'll talk about in a second. So here is, they had a ribbon cutting on May 24th, yes, May 24th, and various officials of the city and county and other organizations came to dedicate these signs. So we're going to start off with this actual ribbon cutting ceremony and hear the remarks of several different people. The first person we're going to hear from is Tom Nipe, who is the Director of Economic Development in Ithaca, and he'll tell you who he is. But let's go right to him in our first video clip. Coming right up here, Tom Nipe.
Director for Economic Development for the City of Ithaca. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the project, how it came about, and thank some people, and then I'm going to turn it over to a few other people to talk about this project, and there'll be a hike at the end, and Todd Bittner will tell us about that. So, about a year ago, or maybe a little more, the County Beautification Committee said, they're doing the park there. What can we do to really bring some attention to it and spruce it up? Frankly, I also live about 2 blocks that way. And when I moved to Ithaca, one of the first things I did after crying about the apartment that I moved into. It was so hideous. Undergraduates had moved out 24 hours before, and I moved my family in. We came to Ithaca Falls. I had this moment with my wife. It was like, oh my gosh, I think Ithaca is going to be our place after all. And we've gotten used to the housing, right? So, but we still have Ithaca Falls, and the city's really worked hard to improve it. This was a great partnership. The money came from the room tax, and Nick Helmholtz here from the county room tax program. So we want to thank the county for providing the funds. Those funds sat in an account at the chamber for quite a while in a signage balance. So I also want to thank Jennifer Tavares, who's not here, but her staff are here, Jody and Heather and Sarah and Peggy, for saying yes. I was in the role of county tourism program director and had the opportunity to disperse a lot of funds but not do a lot of projects. So this was a perfect marriage because Jennifer said, if you do it, I'll pay for it. And then a committee formed of really wonderful people who sort of dreamed up the plan and all the ideas and wrestled with what do we actually want people to take away from the sign and how do we convey that. So I want to especially thank Margaret Hobby, who was here earlier and had to leave. I want to thank Jean Grace, the city forester, whose crew spruced up the park today. So thank you, Jean. And she was there with us designing the signs. Christine from Historic Ithaca was part of our group. And especially thanks to Sarah Fiorello. Sarah, thank you, Sarah. Sarah, I don't know anybody else who has the title interpretation coordinator. So like this is what she does for a living. We were able to utilize Sarah's skills and help lead us through the process of designing these great signs. So thank you, Cornell Botanic Gardens. These are designed in the same way that the signs further up the creek are as well. You know, whenever we talk about building new signs, people say, oh, it's going to look different, it's going to be sign clutter. There's continuity here as you go up the hill. So those are a few thank yous. Who am I missing? Anyone?
Mary Tomlin.
What's that?
Mary Tomlin.
Yes, Mary Tomlin, the city historian, in content as well. We had a talk from Dan McClure.
Yeah.
That guy is an amazing storyteller. If you can ever go to a talk with Dan McClure. I want to thank the History Center too, because some of the photos that you see here, the Sanborn maps, the archival content came from the History Center. And the History Center has a wonderful project as well, focused on Fall Creek. So it's nice timing with that. Thank you all for being here. I want to turn it over to Peggy Coleman to just say a few words, and then we have Anna Kellis from the County Legislature and Mayor Svante Myrick to say a few words as well.
Okay. I meant to warn you that audio level was a little lower. I couldn't get any higher. There was a lot of audio problems because we were right next to Lake Street and traffic and so forth. So that one was a little low. But now we're going to go on to the next speaker. We got two more speakers. They'll be brief. And then we're going to go for a little hike, a short little hike, or at least portion of a hike. And then we'll come back to one more speaker. So next is going to be Peggy Coleman of the Thompson County Chamber of Commerce. So she's coming right up here.
It is a huge destination, and we are really excited to be here for this ribbon cutting and unveiling of these wonderful interpretive signs. I am the Vice President of Tourism and Community Relations for the Tompkins County Chamber of Commerce. Jennifer really wished she could be here. Unfortunately, the change of date conflicted with a family obligation, so she sends her best wishes and congratulations. It's really exciting to be able to share more of the story, not just of Ithaca Falls, but of our entire destination through this project. The great partnership between the city and the county and all of these folks that Tom has mentioned. It's wonderful to see the way that people collaborate in this community. The fact that our destination won the Emerging Nature Destination for North America for 2017, this is one more reason that supports that award. So we're really honored and thrilled to be here and be part of this ribbon cutting.
Okay, and next up we have Svante Myrick, who is of course, the mayor of Ithaca, and he'll have a few words to share with us here. So we'll go to his clip.
Yeah, when I first came here to Cornell, I come from a village of 800 people, and my suite mate was from Brooklyn. I told him that. He goes, "My building has 800 people." And the next day, he goes, he couldn't sleep because it was too quiet. He said, "Thank God at 3 a.m. the garbage truck came, and he drifted right off to sleep with the clangers." I just want to thank everybody who helped do this, because this spot, of all spots, is instructive about how our community came to be what it is. From an infrastructure investment, which we now know as Ezra's Tunnel, that allowed industry to flourish, which allowed people to move here, which allowed wealth to be created. That wealth then turned into a profound vehicle for social change, that being Cornell University. And that cycle, beginning again and again and again, is a story that can be told right here. But it couldn't have been told without the science to tell it. So, recognizing that, as Shakespeare said, the past is prologue, right? But then Faulkner updated to say not only is it not prologue, the past is not even past. That we are constantly living in a system that's informed by the same inputs as the people who came before us is an important thing to recognize. But that history was being lost on the thousands of people who came to see these falls, and it won't be lost for those who take the time to stop and read those songs. But there's one more way that we can, there's a bee that really likes me. There's one more way that this spot and this project is instructive for everyone, and that is that nothing happens good unless a lot of people are involved. The city could not have done this on our own. We did not do this on our own. If it weren't for Cornell, the Botanical Gardens, the Chamber of Commerce, Tompkins County, all working together, this beautiful monument to nature and to our relationship to it wouldn't be here. So I want to thank you all. Thank you for doing this, for making this part of our city maybe the most magnificent part of our city, all the more accessible for the people who live here and the people who visit here. And I want to thank you for doing it together. I know it's not always easy for us to work together, but this should be a reminder that when we power through those differences of personality and priorities, good things can happen, very good things. So thank you, I appreciate it. I'll be down and I'll pause as if it's happening in real time. And you want to do the countdown?
Wonderful.
1, 2, 3, cut the ribbon.
Yay!
I don't want to cut that. If you haven't seen the sign on the bridge, the sign on
Also, the two signs on the bridge were also being dedicated, so 3 interpretive signs in all, and they are added to other interpretive signs, which I think I showed you there already, that are farther up the gorge. If you go up on the trail that actually goes along the gorge, above Stewart Avenue, towards the Cornell campus, there are some other interpretive signs that were all designed by my a colleague that used to work with me in the parks was Sarah Fiorello, and we worked together on a number of signs in the state parks when we worked together, and she's been at Cornell Plantations for many years doing interpretation coordinator. So what is interpretation? It's interpreting our natural and cultural heritage to the public through various media and means of education and communication. So now we're going to take a little break. We'll come back to Anna Kells, who is after this next little segment, who is a legislator, Tompkins County Legislator, and she has some very interesting things to say. But I thought we'd get off of that subject and actually get out in the gorge and over the gorge for a portion of a hike that followed this dedication. And so we will join Todd Bittner, who is the Director of Natural Areas for Cornell Botanic Gardens, who actually made these signs with the participation of everybody else. So let's go to that portion of that walk with Todd Bittner and Sarah Fiorello. Coming right up here.
Okay, Todd, what opportunity do we have for now?
So I'm Todd Bittner, I'm the Natural Areas Director at Cornell Botanic Gardens, and we're going to have a hike here, co-led by myself and Sarah Fiorello. For the engineering technology of the time, people were amazed because he was able to get within just a couple inches of the two tunnels meeting up from, one crew working from one side, one crew working from the other. So after that was done, then they put the dam in, and the dam had wooden planks on it as well, so they could even raise the water level beyond just that cement that shows there, and about 2/3 of it is washed away since then. But the idea was then you would hold that water back, and it would then flow through the tunnel that was made. And there's a whole series of gates and panels and other things that they would use to be able to control the flow of water as it would be going through there. And what the dam and the tunnel allowed them to do was to then have something that was more of an episodic energy source on a more day-to-day basis. And that was key to powering the industry of the day, because you couldn't, just work in the winter and the fall and a little bit early in the spring, and then there's no water in the summer. In between, storm events, and then here's a thunderstorm a couple days, it turns the mill, and then it doesn't work again for another week. So at the peak of the use of water power in Ithaca in the day, there were 28 dams and centers where mills were in the various gorges. So Fall Creek Gorge had several, Cascadilla Gorge had several, 6 Mile Creek, and on up into other areas. And that was one of the keys to the industrialization and urbanization of Ithaca, was that they had that ready supply of energy that was a leg up on most of the other communities in the area. And the other key ingredient, if you will, in that approach was the lake and then Erie Canal. And that was the transportation network that was then essential for bringing in goods and materials that would then afford you the ability to buy, some fabricated something and then export your crops as well. And then later on, that was replaced by the railroad systems that were in here, and that actually ended up being almost Ezra Cornell's undoing. He almost bankrupted himself with the some investments in the rail systems that didn't pan out quite as well. But then his partnership with the Western Telegraph was the piece that really made his fortune. But each of these things kind of built on themselves in terms of his experience and connections and so on. And that investment in the telegraph was a catalyst then of the day to then see the opportunity that Ithaca could become the land-grant university for New York State.
Okay, so they went on to actually go down in the gorge there to some more interpretive signs that have been put in just below another waterfall near the suspension bridge that goes over Fall Creek Gorge. And I may get to show you some pictures of that later. Let's see how we go. But we're going to go to now back to the park down at the end there by Lake Street, the beginning of the gorge where you walk into Ithaca Falls. And Anna Kells of the Tompkins County Legislature, who represents a portion of the City of Ithaca, said some very interesting, moving things. So let's go listen to her. Bring her video right up here in a sec.
Yeah,
As a lot of you guys know, I grew up here. Grew up on a dirt road in Trumansburg. 3 acres of woods that weren't ours, but that were just woods in the back of my house. So I grew up, without shoes, running around, total wild with my 2 sisters. Probably did more like 3 in the morning, shouldn't have been swimming in this falls when I was a teenager, and never really realized the magnitude of the gift that gave me, that was so fundamentally part of my childhood, unquestionable. And then I went to undergrad, and I had no idea actually how marketable that skill was that I gained because of growing up feeling so safe in the woods, just as safe in the woods as I did on a street. And I was asked to teach, to TA a camping class. And I remember walking behind a group of the kids, and the conversation they were having was how absolutely weird it was that they weren't hearing sirens, there were no trains, there were no ambulances going by, they weren't hearing shouts on the street from people. And not just how strange it was, but actually acknowledging that it made them uncomfortable. And then it started to rain. Not just uncomfortable, but freaking miserable. And it was like the worst thing. They couldn't get away from it. They felt unsafe. And there was one experience that I had that broke my heart. There was one young woman in the group, and there was a hill that was like it was like a 45-degree pitch, and about 3 to 4 feet long. And she couldn't get up it, and broke down in tears because of the frustration she felt of not being able to get up this hill and having to be pushed up by a group of people. And I realized the profound gift that I had, that I felt a sense of confidence and trust and self-efficacy in nature in a way that gave me a gift of peace and that I could survive on my own. There was this grace that I had that I wanted to give, and at the end of this weekend, I asked them to all put their bags down and lay on the ground and just listen to the birds, listen to the wind blowing through the trees, and remember that they could always go back to that place as one of the most peaceful places that they could bring with them in all of the periods of stress that they have for the rest of their lives, that was theirs to take with them forever. And it was really profound. And the one woman who hadn't been able to get up that hill, tears rolling down her face because she made it through a whole weekend, 3 days on her own with her own backpack. And I had that gift because I grew up here. I had that gift because I knew whenever I was really stressed out in school, and then for the rest of my life I could close my eyes and I could hear the sound of that waterfalls. And it's been a gift for me for my entire life. And so I know that that's something that we have, and that's something that we're honoring here. And it's been a hidden gem for a really long time. And so the gift that we're giving to the community here, whenever we all have tourists that are, that look at us and they say, where am I? I can't find my way. You keep talking about these amazing falls, but we can't find them. We can now find them, and that is such a gift that you're giving the community. Because it has been a hidden gem, and it shouldn't be. It should be something that we share with the rest of the world, so that this type of calm, this type of beauty, this type of peace can be something that we share, and that's something that we have, and that's something that we have in our very blood. So thank you guys all for doing this, and look forward to the hike.
Okay, so that was Anna Kells, who is a Tompkins County Legislator, giving her take on the meaningfulness of these new interpretive signs. So, yeah, it shows you there's big connections here between the Erie Canal, the history, Ezra Cornell. A lot of untold stories are now starting to be told for many, many people. People coming from not only visitors, but also local folks who for so many years have been walking into the falls and not knowing some of these historical background, and also the geologic background. One thing we didn't cover when we were on that walk with Todd Bittner, and Sarah Fiorello is that when they went up in the gorge, we covered a lot of the geology. So there is some geologic information on some of the other signs and other media that are around. So we got a couple of more minutes here. I'm going to take a look at a couple of historical pictures from Fall Creek. This is, you may be familiar with well, this is a camera that's a stereo camera that used to be used to make stereographs back in the 19th century, early 20th century. And you would get this little device with pictures taken right next to each other, just about the same distance as your eyes are apart by this camera. And it would produce a stereograph that you would view in the viewer. Okay, so let's take a look at this particular waterfall. And I wasn't sure where this was. So I actually asked Sarah Fiorello of the Cornell Botanic Gardens, which most of Fall Creek Gorge is a natural area of. Here is looking in again at this, a little closer to this waterfall, and to look on a card on the back of the thing, it says Third Fall Ithaca Gorge. Or did that say Ithaca? Yeah, Ithaca Gorge. So that didn't tell me much. So here we are looking at the, again, Bill Heck's picture from the air. And above the falls, you can see Stewart Avenue Bridge, and then above that, you can see another bridge. That's the suspension bridge. And this is along the trail, interpretive trail, sign along the trail that they were walking down. And then here is showing where the falls are. And it says Horseshoe Falls in the middle there. And that is the waterfall right under the suspension bridge now that we were looking at. So here is the 19th century picture. And let's go to a 20th century picture of Horseshoe Falls. So these places, Ithaca Falls, Cascadilla, Buttermilk, Treeman, Taganic, all these places were big attractions back in the 19th century. And hotels were built. There were guidebooks and descriptions. And over in Watkins Glen as well, many of these places were scenic attractions. Of course, they weren't owned by government or other institutions. Well, that's all we have time for now. So I want to thank you all for joining me. And I encourage you to turn off the screen and go outside and go for a walk in the park. I'm going to put up this picture of Horseshoe Falls as we go to our goodbye video clip here. Be coming right up here. I go to it. Is a